Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
/x/. I want to hear true stories of murder, death, and mayhem, as I am sure most of you want to, instead of the typical boring nope threads. Do your best here /x/. This is a true story from the early 1990s. Try to match it. This story is about my older friend who had a horrible event change his life. Buddy is 30 years old. Tells me of his sister. What sister? When he was 20, his mother started going insane due to medication, or lack of. She had a little daughter named Sue. Mom became paranoid, screaming and smashing things, beat son. Son had enough, moved out, called an ambulance to take her away after legal wrangling. Goes with the ambulance. No one is home. Desperately looks for her and his sister. Calls 911. An hour later, a report of 2 figures by the beach comes in. Raced down to the beach. His mother had bound his sister and walked into the sea, drowning them both. Your turn.
3-part story. Live with my granddad until I was 6. Owns a large amount of land on the outskirts of a small town in non-USA. Awesome place with ruins of a church, aqueduct, and an orchard. The local drug guy wants the land. Granddad says LOL no. Drug guy threatens us in town one day and I get angry, so I punch him in the nuts and tell him to quit bugging my granddad, or he'll regret it. Local townsfolk intervene before shit gets out of hand. Granddad sends me to live with my parents in the city. The same day I get to my parents' place, we get a call from my granddad. Drug guy was found dead the day I left, apparently a datura overdose. Security footage in the guy's house shows him running around frothing at the mouth and tearing his skin. It's never shown that he takes anything suspicious at any time. Granddad dies when I'm 18, leaves me the entire property. Travel there to see what can be done with it since I now live in the US. In the end, I decided to rent it to some family for cheap to get them out of a shitty house in that town, and for extra income for my college years. Make them sign a thing that says they can't mess with the aqueduct or orchard, because that was my favorite part of the property. Lots of pomegranates, apples, plums, etc. Let it be known that I'm cool with people in town coming over for any fruit they want if they ask nicely, except for the pomegranates since those trees are delicate. Spend like a month in town. Good times. One of my old friends is now married to an alcoholic douche that beats her even though she's pregnant. Be drunk one night and yell at the douche in a bar. He tries to fight me. Sometime later, once I was back in the States, I'm talking to my cousin about how things are going at the property, and she mentions that the alcoholic douche was found half dead in a pig pen torn apart by angry sows the morning I left town. He died as people tried to pull him out, but the sows wouldn't let anyone near him. Visit town one summer to hang with my cousin who is now a cop, chilling with her at a bar, happy times. Older guy randomly comes over and sits next to me when my cousin goes to the restroom. Recognize him as a hitman for a local cartel. Everyone knows this shit. Says he challenges me to get to him, then walks off. Confused, run into the restroom to tell cousin. She says some of the locals are under the impression that I was behind the 2 deaths previously mentioned. Laugh it off, but in the next few days I find out some people took it really seriously. Now, there was a hitman that challenged me to kill him. Fuck my life. Return back to the States after my vacation's over. Later that week, my cousin Skypes me from her job. Her fellow cops start clapping and cheering. I am confused. turns out the hitman was found mutilated and decapitated in a hotel room, his head on some rocks by a nearby stream, his mouth stuffed with pomegranate leaves and flowers. Everyone in town knows I'm picky about the damn pomegranates. TLDR. The small town seems to think I'm either cursed or some kind of vigilante serial killer. Truth is, I can't even kill a roach without feeling guilty.
Live alone in an apartment. Neighbor is a very attractive, quiet girl about my age. I have sort of a crush on her. Not really friends, but we chat in the hall, etc. She clearly shows an interest in hanging out, but frankly we're both social invalids, and I don't have the stones to invite her over or anything like that. One day she asks me to look after her cat while she goes out. I hate cats, but I agree to because I think she's cute, and it will be an excuse to see her later. Getting late, still haven't heard from her. Go out into the hall and see her door ajar. Call out. No answer. I figure she's not back yet, and left her door open a little by mistake, but decided to check if everything is okay anyway. Everything is not okay. She took her own life by overdosing. Cold and pale on the couch, she's been there all day. Scrawled note stapled to the front of her dress. Anon, please look after my cat. That cat lived 4 more years, and every time I looked at it I remembered finding her like that. It still eats at me, to be honest. If I was a little less of an ass-spy and became closer friends with her, maybe I could have helped. She really did seem like a lovely person.
Not murder, just mayhem. Has a slightly paranormal twist though. Chillin' at home, got my own flat with internet. It's all good. Flat is inside a building. I'm at the front, ground floor. Frantic banging on my window. I look through the curtains, but whoever it was just got into the building via the door. Frantic banging on my door, and a woman, "Let me in, please!" Open door, woman, 30-ish, with dog runs in. They got my boyfriend and dragged him into a car. I don't know what to do. Use my phone to call the police. I'll make a pot of tea. You can't call the police, please. I don't know what to do. Can't call the police? I get suspicious. A minute later, more banging on my window, look through the curtain, but they're already in the building. Banging on my door, and a guy. This is the police. We believe there is a suspect hiding in this flat. A woman with a dog. Open up. Dog starts barking. They hear it. Open this door or we'll have to knock it in. Open the door a crack to see who's there. The 3 biggest, most serious-looking dudes I've ever seen in my life. One shows me a badge. Fuck it. Don't know this chick. Ain't getting into shit for her. Let them in. They cuff her and read her rights. I ask what it's about. They can't tell me because of ongoing investigation. Ask me if I can look after the dog overnight. Someone will come get it tomorrow. Sure, and they take her away. I make the dog comfortable and tell the story on Facebook, asking what I should call the dog. One reply, Jasper. 2 weeks later, still got the dog. Yes, I phoned the police. And no, they wouldn't do shit. The file number they gave me was 404 LOL. Taking a bath, the dog is in other room. Finish bath, dog is gone. Shrug, go to bed. In morning, I found a note from the woman. Thanks for looking after my dog, etc. You were in the bath. I came in and got him. Hope that's okay, etc. Lots of love, Sarah and Jasper. I asked another guy who lives in the building about it. He said she's a junkie who lives in the back flat. She and her boyfriend had stabbed someone in the chest.
Great-great-uncle is a stroke god. Suffers strokes constantly. never agrees with anyone. He's pretty much a definitive version of a nerd. Falls in love with this girl. Girl cheats on him with a rich guy. Great-great-uncle loses it. Leaves house screaming after having his 12th stroke or whatever it was. Stalks her like a true stalker. Shoots her, then offs himself. Shame of my family.jpg. His brother has a son who becomes a carpenter of legend and lives to the ripe old age of 98, wherein an old-timely John Deere tractor toppled on him and he died from his injuries while screaming for help after 2 days. This happens frequently in my family, always freak accidents. Causes me to get paranoid. Still have a lot of furniture he made, including old wooden books that had hidden compartments in them wherein he'd stash valuables and place it on a bookshelf to hide from others. Lol. Sometimes I feel sorry for the poor sod. Also, unrelated, but I've heard stories of him being exceptionally smart and having consistent strokes, holding his head up while they happen and doing drugs to avoid them. That is like morphine.
One of my grandfather's uncles, I think, fought in World War II in the Free Corps Denmark. Danes fighting alongside Germany, mainly on the Eastern Front. In the later stages of the war, him and a small squad, about 3 or 4 others, are patrolling the eastern parts of Germany, looking out for Ruskies after their main squad had been assaulted. Suddenly see a small farmhouse with one Russian guarding the front door. Take out the guard from a distance, enter the house, find 2 more Ruskies who tries to attack them, take them both down. In the house there is a small German family, a mother and father, and their 11 or 12-year-old daughter, also a couple of dogs. The Russians had just arrived and were about to loot the house. Naturally, the family is very grateful and offers their Danish heroes a short rest and a cup of coffee. My grandfather's uncle and his squad accepts. Like 15 minutes later, 2 of my grandfather's uncle's friends guarding the windows spots a squad of Russians approaching from the outside. The father of the house tells my grandfather's uncle's squad to go hide in a small loft on the first floor, since they stand no chance against the huge squad, and that he'll hide the bodies and lead the Russians in the wrong direction. Grandfather's uncle and squad mates can barely fit into the small-as shit room, but manage, and the father locks the door from the outside. The Russians come, and apparently manages to find one of the Russian bodies. They instantly blame the father of the house and shoot him. Mother and daughter starts crying. Dogs start barking. They shoot the dogs. Mother and daughter start running upstairs. Mother is shot as well. Daughter runs into the same room as where the door to the loft is. Russian soldiers run in after her. Suddenly it's quiet for like 10 seconds, then the daughter starts screaming her lungs out. They are her. One of the guys in the squad loses it and kicks open the door and sprays everywhere with his MP40. He gets shot after like 3 seconds. The Russians don't bother looking into the loft, assumes he was the only one there. They leave after 1 hour of looting. When my grandfather's uncle and his remaining friends exit the loft, the girl is nowhere to be found. They never found her. My grandfather's uncle always regretted not helping the family more than he did. Complains about hearing it all again in his dreams, but he didn't want to let his own family in Denmark down. I get uncomfortable whenever I hear this story in its detail.
So, I assume you're all familiar with Charles Manson. Anyway, when my dad was 19, he lived in LA. He was dating a girl whose father had a house right next to the Polanskis. Roman Polanski. whose wife was murdered by the family. Him and a couple of his friends went to hang out there for the night. This night happened to be the night Polanski's wife was murdered. My dad and his friends were outside on the front porch and actually saw the family's van drive by and pull up to the Polanskis. Needless to say, my dad freaked the fuck out when he learned he was one house away from being Manson Meat. Not exactly a chilling murder story, but I think it's pretty cool that my dad was near something of that magnitude.
When I was little, my grandma had a friend. She was much younger than my grandmother, but older than my mom. She was like 55 or something. I remember her as a very nice lady who loved animals and was always bringing me toys and sweets. I really liked her. Sometimes, while my mom was working, Grandma would take me to that woman's place to babysit because Grandma was kind of lazy. I spent a lot of time with her and her husband, who I thought was a great guy. He'd play with me like a big kid, and he knew a shitload of punny, childish jokes that I thought were awesome at the time. They were very warm with each other too. I wanted them to be my parents so badly. They seemed so happy and in love, while mine were always fighting and eventually got a divorce. Then one day her husband suddenly dies. We all feel terrible. She's so broken up about it. My family helps her organize the funeral, etc. And then cops come in and arrest her. Turns out he was poisoned and insured. Later we found out that he was her third husband. The first one is missing and presumed dead. The second one, everyone thought died from a heart attack. However, after her arrest, they exhumed the second one, and as it turns out, she poisoned him too.
A few weeks ago, I was driving home through a state park after school one night when I saw a car driving down a road that leads to nowhere except a few campsites and a lake that was drained years ago. I assumed that the person was going to go into the back and get high, where the police and park rangers wouldn't be able to spot them. I hate stoners who fuck up stuff in the state park, so I called 911 and let them know where the car was headed and that it was really strange that they were driving down that particular road at 10 o'clock at night. They took down my information and said thanks. I honestly thought that was the end of it. Imagine my surprise when the police called me the next morning to let me know that the person driving the car had offed himself in one of those out-of-the-way campgrounds and that he probably wouldn't have been found until next spring. Again, they said thanks, and I disconnected the call. I stared at my cell phone for maybe 20 minutes. All the while I visualized that rotting, frozen corpse being torn apart by coyotes and raccoons in the dead of winter. Shit, man.
B16's supposed to meet a dude in the desert to buy drugs from him. My friend and I drove out to a designated meeting spot. The car approaches us as we head in. I recognize the driver immediately. The driver is a kid named Bruce who is the peewee of a Los Cuatros Milpas gang member. He slows as we approach and asks what we're doing. Tell him we're going to meet dude to score some weed. He starts acting all sketchy. He's a douche, so this is normal behavior for him. Don't think much of it. Pee-wee says he needs to talk to Sapo, LCM gang member that we also know. Continue into the desert. Arrive at a designated spot to see the dude's car interior in flames. Dude I buy drugs from is in the front seat of his burning car with a bullet hole in his head. Realize my friend and I are the first on scene to a drug-related homicide, and that we just saw who did it. Nope.jpg. Tell no one. 3 days later. Hear of a homicide detective looking to talk to me when at school. Homicide detective at my parents' house when I get home from school. Phone records taken from the victim show I was the last call to him. Pokerface.jpg. Asks if I know Bruce. Pokerface.jpg. Says Bruce had been bragging to people about how he killed someone, so he's getting into LCM. You have to be Mexican to get into LCM. Asks if I saw Bruce night of murder. Thinks snitches get stitches. Pokerface.jpg. Well, if you remember anything, here's my card. Bruce arrested. Confesses sobbing, saying he did it on the request of an LCM member. I talk to LCM member all the time. Bruce is full of shit. Find out Bruce is only 14, though he was older than me for some reason. They try him as an adult. Life in prison.
In 91 or 92, not exactly sure which year, my older 16-year-old brother invited me to a late-night treat out with his new car. Long story short, extremely rainy that night, and we get to this gas station on Broad Street at like 11:30 p.m., long since torn down. We go inside to get some drinks and candy and shit. I distinctly remember my older brother and the cashier talking about the weather, and how it was going to mess up her new hairdo, and her asking how old I was. Her saying I should go to bed or some shit, and when we go to leave, on the way out, we notice a guy walking in with a poncho with a black garbage bag with something wrapped in it that looked like a pole. He walked in, muttering some shit about wet feet, over and over. My bro and I are like, lol, what? Whatever. Then we leave, we drive away. And as we pull off, I look back and notice through the rainy glass, the guy with the pole hitting something on the ground with what I thought at the time was the pole I saw in the garbage bag I saw when he walked in. We come to find out 2 days later from my grandma that the guy went in there and murdered the cashier with an axe, beheaded her, and was caught by an off-duty cop who happened to pull in when he was trying to get away. I distinctly remember seeing him hacking her through the window as we drove off in the rain. They tore that place down. It would used to give me chill bumps riding by it when I was younger.
I have one my mom told me a few years ago. Parents become landlords to a brand new 3-story apartment building. First time being landlords. People want to move in the apartment upstairs. Parents trust them because they were naive and new to the whole landlord thing. Something is fishy about new neighbors, more people moving into said place than there originally were. I'm born around the time they're there, which was about 2 months. My mom wakes up in the middle of the night to feed me when she hears people going down the stairs to the upstairs apartment loudly. I was only a few days old. They abandoned the apartment in the middle of the night, apparently. Not too long after, cops asked my mom about the guy who owned the apartment, Hugo, if he had owned a blue car, which he did. Find his car and open the trunk to find one of those Samsonite suitcases and open it. Hugo's body was stuffed in it. I think it was only later my mom found out Hugo was a drug dealer, and what's worse is that the cops don't know who he is because his name was most likely faked, so his murder is a cold case file. What's freakier is the guy who moved in that same apartment was a cop who said he probably knew Hugo. He also showed my dad the crime scene photo for some reason.
When I was 7, there was a 14-year-old boy who lived at the top of our street who creeped out everyone. He was always finding dead animals and showing them to people. I'd chatted with him a few times, and he was nice to me. One day, he asked me to come up to his room because his cat had kittens, and he knew I liked kittens. I went. I had known the guy my whole life, even if he was creepy, and he led me to his bedroom. I got a bad feeling. He said they were in the closet, but he opened the closet and began rummaging around for something in there. I freaked out and ran for the door. He had locked it. He caught me by the throat and threw me back against the bed. Then when I burst into tears, he held me close and apologized, saying he'd never do anything to hurt me. He let me go. A year later, after he'd moved to a subdivision, a 7-year-old girl from the class under mine went missing. They found her in the woods. He'd lured her there by playing hide and seek, and then stabbed her in the chest and abdomen over 40 times. He was caught, and for a while it looked like I might have to testify at his trial, but he was so batshit insane he was able to get convicted, as an adult, without me ever taking the stand. During the trial, while he was in police custody, one of the baby dolls I had in my treehouse turned up stripped naked, bound and gagged with duct tape. The message was pretty clear. We suspect it was his grandfather who did it, but nothing was proven. It turns out that his grandparents had just pulled up in the car that time when he suddenly apologized and let me go. If they had been just a little later, I probably would have been his first victim.
My best mate and his friends arranged to go skydiving. On the day, my friend is seriously ill and can't go, so it's just 3 of them driving there instead. 2 dudes and 1 girl, girlfriend of one of them. The guy lets his girlfriend drive his car, even though she isn't insured. Driving down a single lane, A road, attempted to overtake an ambulance and car. Lorry coming towards them. Choices. 1. Try to cut in quickly in front of the car. 2. Swerve onto the hard shoulder of the opposite lane and probably damage the car as there is a ditch. At first decides to go for the ditch. Oncoming lorry moves to the middle to allow them room. Last moment she changes mind and goes to cut in. Lorry hits them, crushing the car and literally driving over the driver's side of the car. Girl crushed to death. 2 guys on the other side of the car survive with some broken bones and concussion. If my best mate had gone, he would be dead.
Watching Dateline with my parents as usual. Story gets interesting, don't worry. Story comes on. Halfway through the initial description, my mom gets up and walks away. Dateline story. A woman was being abused by her husband. On the outside, everything is just fine. Normal family, husband, wife, 2 kids. One day the husband goes missing. Wife makes up some story about how he left them. Many years later, daughter goes to the police and says her dad was buried in their backyard. Sure enough, he was. Apparently his wife shot him in the head while he was on the couch with a shotgun. Got her 2 kids to dig the hole in the backyard. I think she told them it was for a flower garden. The daughter sees her dad's body, knows her mom did it, but too afraid. Son is only 4 and doesn't know what's going on. Well, that's fucked. My mom was intensely watching the story. Tells me that was her cousin. My cousin killed her husband and had her kids bury him. Apparently 2 of my aunts tried to kill their husbands who were abusive with a frying pan. 1 succeeded. So glad my mom is normal.
My father is an abusive alcoholic sociopath. I witnessed him beating my mother. He beat us sometimes too, but not often. Regardless of this, he has custody of my brother and I for a few years, around the time I am 13 to 15. Leaves the house to go to bars, comes back wasted one night we are talking at the dinner table, I don't remember about what. Dad is trashed. He says to me, I'm gonna tell you something I've never told anyone, something you can never tell anyone. Okay, you probably don't want to know this. Gets super bad creepy feeling. Remember, Jill, creepy feeling wins out, nope, and walk away from the table. To clarify, Jill is a woman he dated for a while. Looking back, she seemed white trash. We don't know what her last name was. Present day, I haven't spoken to my father in about 8 years, ever since I thought he offed himself on my voicemail and then called me 8 hours later like nothing happened. Moved back to the old neighborhood after a good 13 years of bouncing around. Walking through the antique district of my old hometown, see woman I know, holy shit. A neighbor from the house I grew up in, when I lived with my dad, owns this antique shop now. We catch up, chat for a few minutes. Right before I leave the shop, she says, "Did they ever find out what happened to Jill?" Horrible feeling returns. I ask her, what, did she go missing or something? The old neighbor says yes, no one ever found out what happened to her. Ask my aunt about it. She's a cop in this town, but we don't have a last name or anything to go on. Not much they can do. I tell my mom, she tells me my dad had threatened her life multiple times and told her he's made people disappear before. I'm pretty sure my dad killed someone. If I ever see him again, I will ask him, and I'm pretty sure he'll tell me the truth.
Have you posted this before? Swear I've read it before.
Yeah, I posted it here on /x/round the time I found out. I was trying to post a link to the person I think she might be, but it won't let me post for some reason. If you Google Jill Beatty missing person, it should come up. No matter how I fuck up the link, it will not let me post it. This is the only thing I've found after hours of Googling that might be her. It says she's from Reno, but might be in California or Washington. We live in Los Angeles County. The timeline is right, and she vaguely resembles the girl I remember, but I'm going to ask my brother when I see him next week if she looks familiar. My dad is homeless somewhere in LA, and I wouldn't seek him out just to ask him this. But my mom says he's such an egomaniac and is probably so proud of himself for getting away with it, he would probably cop to it if asked, especially if I asked.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.